I love how much it breaks.
Anyway, all right.
Any
We're now
customization.
broadcasting live. So it's a beautiful day in New York City, and apparently that brings the people out. It's a good crowd. A bunch of new faces. So before we kick off, quick introductions. Go.
I'm Dan from Pentagram.
And you say you show up on the OS 10 OS 10 server IRC channel.
Yeah, they're under DSilme or briefly under Creshmoo.
Okay.
Old handle, but I'm usually floating around asking somebody's advice on something or seeing if I can chime in from time to time.
Cool.
My name is Mark. I work at Vector Media, which is an outdoor advertising company. I'm sure you've seen the big digital or buses all around. I do system administration there, primarily with Macs.
Cool.
Hey, my name is Jonathan Zox. I have a Mac consulting company called Mac Help NYC, and do a lot of Mac stuff.
Who are your primary clients?
So our clients are newspapers, magazines, ad agencies, publishing, yeah, a lot of design departments, marketing departments, and a bunch of random like design departments within fashion companies, stuff like that.
Mark, I work at Monitoring Medical Center, and I run a Apple support team.
I didn't know we were introducing everybody, but I guess as we go around the table. So I'm Ed. I think I just met you three for the first time. I work at Google. I'm one of the hosts here.
I'm Mason. I work for Hauser & Wirth Galleries here in New York. We're a fine art company, deal in sculptures, paintings, drawings, anything high-end art. And I manage their IT infrastructure for both New York locations, one in Chelsea, one on the Upper East Side. And we're just starting to work logistics for our Los Angeles location. So that's also my responsibility. I like to consider myself an IT generalist, so I know a little bit about a lot. But I'm here to learn.
Ed, I work here at Google. I'm one of your hosts. I know, nothing else.
There you go.
What makes it easier?
Yeah, I'm the same as him.
I'm Alistair Banks. I work with that guy. I was mentioned at an Evernote-based meetup of the San Fran MacBrain.org, but I wasn't mentioned. Just my code was mentioned, and about how they changed my code and didn't contribute back to my code. So I'm not bitter.
Alistair, not bitter. Duly noted.
So wait, what? MacBrain? I don't know. What is it?
MacBrain.org is ran by, what's his name? It's Eric. So it's an SF meetup for Mac administration. They've been,
San Francisco.
Yep, and they've been doing it monthly. And there's a person from Lookout. There's a person from Code 42. There's a person from Roche, which used to be, what is the name of the pharmaceutical company it used to be?
Roche used to.
I don't remember, but a humongous pharmaceutical company that my former consultancy actually did work for. That's how I met these people. But they went to Lookout as was one of the places they were at, and the last time it was Evernote. And so our Dropbox cohorts that we know from the MacAdmin community are well attending that, as well as folks on the West Coast that we know.
Is there a web app for that or something?
Jeez. Yeah, there's a button.
Probably is a web app.
I just don't want
try
to see
runs on
people's
Java.
faces as they pass by. I'll look at their legs. I just don't want to see that. There. Awesome. So, so for the people who are new here, the other thing we do is we keep an IRC channel open. We broadcast this on Google Hangouts, and so people follow along that way. And sort of the back channel here is the Mac IT IRC channel. So every now and then, if I mention that someone in the chat room says something, that's what I'm talking about. And before we even get started, Tom Bridge did say that he just released Monkey in the Box 0.3.0. I don't know what that is, so I looked it up. The goal of this script is to deploy a basic monkey repo in a simple script based on a set of common variables. I have no idea what that means. Does anyone use this? Can anyone
It means it's a quick way to bootstrap monkey, period.
All right.
So since auto
What's it
package
called?
is supposed to be
Monkey
monkey in a box, nobody puts monkey in a corner. But the idea is that since auto package builds on top of monkey and the fact that it can grab the things you might want to be pushing out in the way of patches, this will both start up monkey with everything you need and suck packages in, so it's ready to go after you kind of click the button.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Flip the switch.
You should look at that.
Like an appliance.
What are we gonna?
That sounds handy. Make a note to look at that later. Cool. So, did anyone notice the topic this
The
month?
theme.
Tablets.
Tablets. So, I hope you guys have some answers because I admittedly don't, and this is either going to be a lot of people with some good conversation, or this is just going to be me and Ed yelling, maybe not at each other, but yelling with each other about tablets. So, I don't know. I keep seeing people trying to make tablets work. And I know, like, the iPad, when it first came out, people in the media would say, oh, this is just a consumption device, and you'd have all these geeks kind of fighting back and yelling back and saying, no, you can do real work on an iPad. And I can't. I admit, I've tried. There are days I try, and people like that I respect and follow will sometimes say, you know what, if it wasn't for Xcode, I could do everything on my iPad. I was like, yeah, let me try again, because maybe now I can. I can't. It's terrible. Like, maybe that's just me, because I see people doing it, and we have a close relationship with Apple, and Apple reps come in, and of course they're always touting their iPad and taking notes. And I don't know, do they only use iPads? I forget. I guess they still bring laptops. They try to bring their iPads along. And
But what's their job function? Are they reps? Are they sales
Sales
people?
reps.
you know what though?
I think it has to do with
More Apple stuff?
your job function and what you need, the tools you need.
Yeah, like the number one thing that, I try to not mention Tom Limoncelli in every conversation where I try to sound smart, but
Good guy, no problem.
one of the concepts that he touches on is the read-only executive, because he feels that there's a job function in which you need to review and make decisions, and that does not involve necessarily crunching the data yourself. It's acting on data that other people have crunched. But like, we actually do trials all the time. We say, hey, the workflows might be supported by these back-end systems from either of these devices. Which one do you want? And how often do they pick brand X? I mean, there's not a lot of iOS that they're saying, oh yes, this will 100% be a better experience than a comparably priced device. Especially when the MacBook Air is now competitively priced and has more features built in.
Yeah, personally for me, I would rather have an 11-inch MacBook Air, real keyboard, comparable screen size, much more functionality.
If I didn't have a great Twitter experience, a great game experience, and the Mini wasn't so great, but like I would use this for reading because it's big enough. That's the only thing that's better on this over a Mini.
Again, that's mostly consumption.
But that's all personal use. It's not, hey, I'm gonna get my job done.
So that's the question I guess I have is anyone sitting here going, Ed, you're missing the whole point of this. We're using tablets successfully, or one of my clients is using tablets, and they're all great at it. They love it. And they use nothing but tablets. Like, is there something that I'm missing, or are we all sort of in the same boat?
Common
Like,
refrain, I think.
we're all
What
trying
you're
to
saying is
figure it out.
Yeah.
I think a tablet is in a way something like a thin client. It's something that is functional for an awful lot of things you might need to do, and if those things are all you need to do, a tablet can be great. If portability, if a touchscreen interface is what you're doing, if you have a keyboard case and you can type fast enough on one, or if you're not typing much at all.
Right, but once you add a keyboard,
You
have
get
an
into the
11-inch
same.
Air, right?
Sort of. You can still. I've seen some really slick keyboard cases where they're almost like Apple's own smart cover, where they flip open and they're a thin keyboard, and they are still. If you had an iPad Mini Retina and one of those things, it would still be under a pound, which is still,
Yes,
well
yeah,
under
absolutely.
half the weight of even the 11
Have you
inch.
typed on one of those mini
Keyboards.
keyboards?
I have big hands.
Right,
That
it's nearly
doesn't
impossible.
work well. Yeah.
It's awful. This size, the old school iPad, 1, 2, 3 size, is sort of right in the chat room. Nagel says, Ed, you're missing the point. All right, great. So please school us, Nagel. What I think I can do is...
You think Disney does a lot of their animation on iPads?
Well, their animation for iPads.
That's true.
Yes, yes, yes. And
So-
who's that guy from Pixar, Dr. Wade, who always kind of talks about this? He writes, and I'm assuming Disney's doing something similar, but I know at Pixar, they have these iPad apps where they can review, rendered footage from the day before, and the director of the movie can mark up and make notes and say this should change, or this color should be brighter or different, or whatever. I mean, there definitely are use cases, and this is going to sound. I'm not joking when I say this. How about that? I found the use case that kind of gives me hope for for tablets, and that's Hearthstone. Anyone play Hearthstone? Right. They had a Mac version, and a PC version, of course, but they have a Mac version. And for those who don't know, it's a card game based in the Warcraft universe.
Vaguely Magic the Gathering.
Vaguely
based.
Magic the Gathering. So you get a deck of cards. It's a card game. And on the Mac, you're mousing and clicking and dragging. When you change that to a touch interface, you immediately kind of go, this is the way this is meant to be interacted with. So I definitely have hope that, not just games, but we'll see other things where, like, the touch interface just immediately makes you say, this is the way it's supposed to be.
I think also workflows are dependent on what you want to do. So like in our hospital, we're thinking about a large rollout of either laptops or iPads, and they kind of want both. They want, when they're rounding and they're at bedsides and they don't need to type a lot, they want an iPad, they want to be able to touch, they want to just look things up quickly, and they don't want to set something down because they don't have
Find
places to
set it down.
set it down and type. So it needs to be mobile, it needs to be in their hand, and they're doing read-only. So it works perfectly there. But at the same time, when they want to write their notes, they do need a laptop, they do need a desk, they do need large format screen, and so their use case just changes depending on their actual workflow.
I mean, retail is always going to want this.
Right.
Retail is always going to want a big enough screen and an interface that is customizable to whatever comes next, if they're ever going to customize anything, really. But it's the fact that it doesn't take up the floor space that they have to worry about the
And
square
you have to set it
footage.
down.
Point of sale system,
Yeah.
and there, the
We have-
readers, that's fantastic.
We have another one, and it's one of the best things about my new job is that I can work with people whose specialization is to do stuff like this. It's we don't want to get sued, right? And we want to make sure that we give the right medication to the right person. And there's these scanners that people have used, and Symbol has made a fortune that they are the perfect scanner company, but their software is ludicrous. And the Windows CE devices that took Microsoft in a whole new direction. No, it didn't, because they just couldn't get the interface right and they couldn't get the software right. Well, if anybody can write the software after they get in the walled garden, and we can hook it up to accessories that allow for the scanning, the back-end system that can communicate with it, we can make sure that people don't get the wrong medication or have the blood pulled from the wrong amount from the wrong person. That is a great, very logical use case that translates immediately. So it's just about how you're going to translate the rest of the use cases that will migrate at all. Some workflows won't migrate. If you're going to be stable and you're going to need a lot of real estate to interact with something, your body is not meant to be waving and touching all of these things. But for those that like have translated immediately, there's only going to be more that they find.
So Greg in the chat room, Hagel is bringing up, let's check in 10 or 20 years. And, I certainly agree with that, especially as, this next generation comes up, because I know, like, my kids, they use a laptop, sure, but they use their phone and tablet just as much. Probably the phones more.
Yeah, I was about to say, or
The iPod Touch is what we're
might go
doing
away.
with a scanner because
the Apple
it's
Store is still doing, I guess, right?
Yep.
they haven't upgraded to iOS 7. Anyway,
Besides that, they're using the iPads with the giant battery packs.
but iPod Touches, with the scanning and the
Swipe.
card swipe
I've
capability as
used
well.
those devices firsthand
Yeah.
for a long time. They're surprisingly, they really changed the way that Apple did business, first of all. Before that, they used one of the Windows CE and Symbol devices that you're talking about.
Easy Pay.
Oh, those things
Terrible.
are terrible. It literally took you 5 to 7 minutes to ring somebody out, and now those, when they introduce those cases that do everything, swipe, sign, everything, down to 2 minutes, in and out, which was for them huge.
And the iPad's revolutionized the way the Genius Bar operates too. I mean,
Yes.
you've been in an Apple store sat at the Genius Bar recently. I worked for Apple as Genius and then lead Mac Genius from like 02 to 07, and we went through like the OS 9 case reporting through Vantage, I think it was called, and then I forget Vantive. That's it. Thank you. And then whatever replaced it, I forget the name of that now, but
GCRM,
GCRM.
which then turned into iRepair, which
I left
then
before
transitioned
iRepair, I
from-
think.
You left about the time I joined on.
Okay.
And yeah, from there they went to the iPads, which were a huge step up, but also circling back to what we're talking about now, it also was kind of a step back in terms of flexibility, speed, functionality, because before that we were all working on MacBook Pros, and to type, 80, 90
You had a
words a
real
minute,
keyboard.
so much easier than an iPad.
Yeah.
To give them credit where credit's due, they did a very good job of accounting for the most frequently experienced scenarios with customers. So they did give you pretty quick ways to work through that without having to type tons and tons and tons of notes. But when we first made the transition, I found it to be pretty limiting. And I think that screen real estate is one piece to that puzzle.
Yeah.
Like with smaller screen real estate, portion of it taken up by your keyboard if you're not using the keyboard case,
Right.
that limits in my opinion, limits the usability of the device. Like, it's helpful, but only to a certain amount.
You can hand it to a customer and you can let them sign their name. You can have them verify parts of their check-in or whatever. I haven't used that system other than as a customer playing dumb on the other side of the bar. Because I find if you walk in there and tell them that you were you are a Mac person, generally you're going to spend 3 times as long there. Fun sometimes, but time
So
consuming.
retail. Sounds like retail
Right.
Yeah.
tablets.
Yeah, the Square
Specialty,
processor.
specialty
Madison Square
inventory.
East.
I think once there's a usable and more than usable version of Microsoft Word and other Office apps, I think that will change things.
Do you? I'm just not sure.
Do you think it's not because do you think it's usable now, or do you think?
No, I don't think it's usable now, and I don't know if that's really ever the big use case.
No. Well, I don't know that's the use case, but if there was a way, maybe using gestures, or maybe it's just doing anything on an iPhone or an iPad, even Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel, like going into a cell, everything's just slower, and it's like more cumbersome and more annoying, and people just don't do it. But I think if
Is
that
that an Office thing, or did
I don't know.
Or like
It could just be a hardware thing.
No, but I'm wondering, like, did Apple get it right with the iWork?
I think they did.
Yeah.
I think it's easy
Yeah,
to
it's
use.
a lot easier.
I think what
But,
Microsoft did is they tried to translate the experience on
Yeah,
PC
yeah.
directly to the tablet.
That's not.
So you're
So I haven't tried the new
using
Office apps. Have you guys
different
tried it at all?
I haven't, because
Yeah,
I know I'm
that's
not.
it.
Again,
Well, do
I
you
have
use them
them-
on computer?
I have them on my laptop where I need them, and
Mm-hmm.
so outside of Google, I work with MacTech Magazine. So a lot of that's the only reason I need Word.
Right.
And-
Well, that's the only reason.
No.
you
But I was
need
gonna say my
Right.
workflow in that is very heavy. Editing and commenting, and from what I've seen, that's not what shines on the tablet version.
Yeah.
Office.
Well, this is going to
Right.
sound weird, but I was really hopeful about the Surface. Like
No,
the
me
idea of
too,
the
to be
convertible
honest.
device, and I mean,
Right.
it's just been incredibly disappointing. But
Yeah.
I don't know if that's Microsoft's fault or if the idea itself is fundamentally flawed. That the convertible device
Their
is
whole
just
thing
never
with
going to
touch
happen.
is, I mean, I installed, had to install Windows Server 2012 on a server with no touchscreen attached or anything, and it pops up with when you push a CD, and it's like, tap here to figure out what to do with this
Swipe from
disk.
the right.
Yeah, and I'm like,
Show the shot.
okay, this is a server OS. There's no touchscreen attached, and like it just seems like there's like too many wires crossed with Microsoft
Yeah,
that
well-
like they've prepared their server OS for tablet servers that may or may not happen in the next 2 decades, and they're ready for it. But they like So with the Surface, I'm like not that
Well,
surprised.
they've
with.
replaced the word "click" with "touch," which is just
Yes,
like
I
that's
think they have
not
just-
that's
right.
meaningless
Yeah.
and stupid.
Like, if only they had,
Right, and
some
that's
tech
what-
expertise to figure out how to
Right.
detect if there's a touchscreen. Like,
Exactly. The first time I ever used Windows 8, I
Right.
used it on a regular
yeah.
traditional laptop, and everywhere it's like tap to do this, tap to do that. You guys can't like dynamically change that to figure out a touch device.
Right.
They don't want to confuse anybody. They're just going to use one word to mean everything.
They're redefining language.
Yeah.
They're just linguists. That's
So,
really cool.
yeah, in the chat room, Greg and I are in violent agreement. I think Office on the tablet is a dead end. You
Yeah,
use tablets
yeah.
for other things, and
Tablets for other
I
things,
think Office
usually.
generally is a dead end.
yeah.
It's a much longer. It's a much
Google
longer road
Docs?
before you hit the dead end, but I don't think that it's.
Are we talking about, like, Microsoft Office or just, like, word processing in general?
Microsoft Office?
Okay,
in
fine. But, like,
general.
word processing, like, something that, other than email, browsing, like, I think that's close to the top of the biggest group of people that do stuff on computers.
Yes.
And in the business world. So therefore, I think if there was some magic way to make that work, I think that could be a game changer for tablets. I don't know that that's possible. But.
Well, so the thing that I found, like, this is maybe a slight digression, but again, for word processing, unless you're doing something really quick, you tend to want a real keyboard.
Sure.
So someone in the office had lent me a keyboard, a Bluetooth keyboard that we were talking about. It attaches, you can use it with your iPad, which was really cool. But the odd thing for me was I was using it with Apple's Pages. You then have to reach up to the screen to still do, like, you can't change, like, you type. Oh, this section should be bold. So now I have to reach up and kind of do that weird, like, hold it and wait for it to figure out and then do the selection. Now you're doing all this stuff from the screen rather than, maybe it's not bold, maybe you're applying a paragraph style or something, but there's no keyboard. Because the nice thing is that iOS respects the keyboard shortcuts you'd expect. So C, copy, paste, cut, all of that works.
So,
but there are so many other things besides those keyboard shortcuts, and like there's this weird like reaching over to
Text selection is the big one.
Right.
Text
Well, okay.
selection,
So you say. So I'm sure you're aware you can like double tap and it'll highlight a word.
Yeah.
So if you do that, like double tap and then drag, like in one fell swoop, like two, and then it goes really quickly. Totally.
It's like this
But
weird.
I think that like the
Maybe I
fact
have
that you
to get
said
used
like
to
that
that.
weird thing, like it'll take years for people to get into knowing how to do some of those things and do them really quickly and fluidly, just like people were weird with the mouse when it's.
I don't know. I think that the use case where I need to insert a letter in the middle of a 11-letter word.
Yeah.
That's never going to be a good experience on a tablet because
Why not like three
Well-
fingers? What if you could just do like that?
that's
Or,
being a
like,
huge word. Like
Yeah.
I want to pick the space
What if
between
you
the
do,
T
like,
and the
three
N.
taps? I don't know.
I think
But I want to pick the space between the N and the T. The iPad or the tablet has no idea where I'm touching
It's awful.
because its
better on
its
Android.
exactness of
Because
tap
I mean,
is
no. When
huge.
It's better
It's
on
the whole
Android.
area
I
under
think
my
it
finger.
learns because like if I tap and hold, it pretty much gets it in the right spot most of the time for me. But it takes tapping and holding. So if we can figure out something that like wouldn't take that long, like if
You
I
could
tap on a
select the
5-letter
word.
word and I want to go between the first and second character, like
I don't know. I mean, I can get it to work, but not. It's
Yeah,
not
maybe
the
after
ease
multiple times.
of you know, with
Of a
a
mouse
mouse you get a
precision.
single pixel. Like you know there's a target pixel at the end of that arrow, and if I can place that and click, I know where exactly where I'm clicking. My fingertip just isn't that small.
Right, but would you say, so you're sitting here with an
But-
Nexus 7, would you
well-
say it's better on Android? I would.
So the
Text selection's a lot, or
Yeah,
placing
but-
the cursor. Not
yeah,
the text selection.
those are implementation details. But like the one thing
Well,
I think
Android.
Android totally
But you don't think it could get to the point where it could detect like what you're thinking essentially based on like your finger placement? I mean, a Fitbit can detect when you're taking a step versus when you're like
Yeah.
just shuffling around your hand. Like,
But you're
Not
talking
really.
about
No, I don't know.
yeah, okay, this is true. It bugs up sometimes.
I mean-
but,
Yeah.
I think that
I mean, like
that-
over the years of
that
of
gets
like,
into the question of whether there isn't a better interaction modality
Sure.
Interface paradigm.
Makes sense.
interface paradigm that we haven't hit on. Yes, yeah, there is.
mhm.
no matter
Yeah.
how far they develop the tablet, no matter how far they take it, 15-inch tablet, whatever.
15-inch
I'm serious. No matter how
20-inch
far they
tablet.
take it, there's always going to be like a
Table.
limitation. What you guys are describing, it's not part of your workflow to select something in text. It interrupts your workflow. And I think that for reasons like that, I don't think that the desktop or like home-based PC will ever go away completely.
Right.
I think that there will always be a need and a desire for a large screen and a physical keyboard and a means of interacting with a computer besides
Having
touch.
two things open at once
Right.
next to that.
Right.
Be able to
Being
compare
Aside,
them.
glaring oversights aside.
Well, being able to watch Netflix and work on my document.
Yes.
And also,
You get two
when you
iPads for that.
That's
What are you,
really
Charles?
annoying on a laptop though. It's
Yeah.
not that easy.
when you say something
like
like
the toolbars
always,
are
like there will
there.
always be a home PC with a keyboard, I really do think that the keyboard is a limited life device. I do
I mean,
think
considering
that
the ocean's
answer to
going
the
to go up 13 feet in
question.
the next 100 years.
There's
Sure.
nothing.
I mean,
There's nothing I can enter text in as fast as I can enter in a keyboard. Nothing
Right.
comes close. I cannot speak as fast.
Yeah,
as I
but
can
again,
but I
Really?
don't
but
necessarily.
again,
But can you
maybe
think
for our
faster than you
kids,
can
that's a
type?
different story.
Yeah.
because they're going to start typing a lot
In your
slower.
form.
No, because they're typing slower. Because I think
Maybe they
you know
are
what it
because
is?
they're used to
Just-
doing this.
I think part of it is just I grew up with a keyboard,
Maybe.
and I
Maybe.
can
Yeah.
get the thoughts from my brain through a keyboard onto the page
Mhm.
quickly enough. And when I change to a tablet, it's too slow to kind of keep up with my thoughts, right? And that's a problem. But my kids, you watch them bust out paragraphs on
With their thumbs.
Yeah, with their thumbs. They can do it almost as fast as they're thinking.
I
And
think
that's-
voice
Maybe.
technology will probably step up to
Superseded.
fill that void to
I-
an extent.
Mhm.
Yeah, yes, but it's
It requires quiet room.
right. You're not gonna like on the train. I'm not.
No, it
gonna
doesn't
sit
have
next a
to.
person.
I mean, we can
Well,
say
yeah,
we
I
can
don't
say
know,
that
like,
in the future.
there are a lot of
Yeah.
room jerks.
Human, like
Currently,
medical
now, but in
dictation
10
that's
years
done
from
by
now-
humans is my brother is a physician and he dictates like this. Okay, I'm doing it like this, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And like the dictation service slows it down
Yeah,
and they do really well.
Yeah.
And so
but
like
that's not automated.
right, that's human, but over the next years,
Right, we can assume that, but
Yeah.
I will never be able to
but if a system
speak
can,
as fast as I can type.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we're
Mhm.
talking about the tablet as a replacement for a laptop exclusively, but
Right.
I do think
Yeah.
that there is a point at which the keyboard maybe doesn't become the
Right.
default device.
No,
for
I agree
any-
with
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I
Around
don't-
the home.
I have to.
And I don't think it's necessarily a touchscreen on a tablet. I think we may be talking, although that certainly applies in cases where
Right. Where-
all you're typing for is your zip code for the weather app, although GPS is
Right.
sort of a silly replacement
and
for that.
hey,
or-
let's face it, we're in the technology industry. In 5 years, who knows? We're
Well,
up
that's-
with something that
I
we
think
can't
that's-
foresee.
And in 10 or 20 or 30, I think there will be something faster than your fingers on a keyboard, and it may be what our generation
Right.
doesn't get, just
Right.
like our grandparents or parents' generation don't
In
get
general,
the computer. But there may be a direct interface to the neurons.
Yeah, right.
They
We
can
can't
then
see that far ahead of that. So
be an
we
input.
follow. But no, I agree. So
Well,
I mean,
but that I mean, kind of that's where I would drive. That's why I'm driving my comments. Is that I think that basically comes down to I think tablets are an interim technology. Tablets are not.
possibly.
They're filling a gap, and the fact that they change so rapidly is an indication that they're and there's a huge market for them. So obviously a huge uptake. People want to spend money on these. They want to buy them. They want things like that. But they're not the ultimate thing. And that there's something that's going to come later, 5 years and 10 years, that's going to be oh yeah, that's what we wanted. when we were buying iPads, we really
Or
wanted this
just
thing.
another thing that's like, oh, this is cool.
Or another interim tech. Right.
You should speak up instead of talking to the IRC room your own thoughts on the matter.
I think
He
the
can do anything he
phablet,
You for
wants.
calling him out. What?
I think the phablet is going to where it's going to be at.
Phablet?
What's
No,
a,
I think
It's the smaller.
Big.
Yeah.
again,
a Galaxy
People
Note
make fun
or
of that.
something?
Or whatever, yeah.
people make fun of that.
And it's
especially
the only
Apple
tablet some people have.
But now that Apple's talking about a larger screen iPhone, they're, oh, it's the best idea ever. You know,
Right.
I think it's-
I agree because the only reason I agree with that to a
What
certain
about
extent
foldable
is
or
that
rollable?
people
Yeah.
want one device. They
Right.
don't want necessarily to be carrying around a
True.
phone and
Right.
a tablet.
Well,
And to get them all to sync with
Yeah.
one another.
Right.
A phone and a tablet is really ridiculous
Yeah.
because they're the same device.
Yes.
One has a cellular radio in it, and one's bigger.
I do
They're the
want
same
that.
device. Yeah, but I have to have this because people might have to call me,
Right.
and I have
Lesson
to, and I
learned
want to
the
have
last
this.
time you've made a phone.
I get phone calls.
Okay.
I don't make them.
I don't have as many friends as you.
My kids' school. Has
I
to call
get
me.
email. Let me tell you about it. But no, like we just got almost. We're like this close to having status board, right? The funniest thing about status board is, guess what? You can get as an in-app purchase.
High def.
HDMI out to then put it on a really big thing that you can
Yeah,
see
right.
from a distance.
Which doesn't make
Now, I'll dev what we want to have a dashboard for on this. And then we might get the in-app purchase to actually send it for our department. When we have enough people
Honestly,
that
just
a department can't look over my shoulder at this.
Yeah.
And we're all not fitting one like set of cubicles. But still, it's kind of like a weird thing where it's like, I'm going to use this tablet to make an even bigger tablet with that is actually appropriate for the use case.
Then
So
it becomes
just-
just an input device.
just to wrap up, not wrap up, but cover that succinctly. Greg Nagel in the chat room says, "I can't tow my boat with my motorcycle, therefore my motorcycle is a port trunk," and that's the point. I think.
Yeah.
They're different devices. They're different things. You can't say one's necessarily a replacement for the other. They complement each other
He has a boat.
quite well. No,
It might.
he says, in reality, I have no truck, boat, or motorcycle. But yeah, so like I think we've answered that part of the question. The question like that I really want to find out from people about tablets is like, is anyone actually doing this, and are they doing it well, and are they, is there a solution here? It sounds like point of sale, retail gets it. It's a big help there.
And
It sounds like everyone else is kind of still looking for this sweet spot.
I also think it's those people that do the three top things, which is just email, browsing, and
Yes.
looking at a Word document.
Yeah.
All of our executives just sit on their iPads with
Yeah.
their keyboard, and they go to every meeting with that, and they'll sit at their desk and they'll still look at their iPad.
I mean, the one tablet
Those are
project I
people who
worked
go to
on as a
meetings, don't
consultant
take notes anyway.
was for one of the stock exchanges, giving out iPads instead of paper at their
Sure.
board meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and it made a lot of
Represent
sense, and they
We
could control the
used that app.
documents. Well, this was before that they were just going to use SharePoint.
Yeah, so we replaced sending these massive
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
board
and
books
it made sense.
and the board books to print them and then to FedEx them overnight
Yeah.
was as much as buying the app, and so
Yeah, and they wanted to make sure they
Makes
knew
sense.
where all the documents were. Like they can
And then-
take them off the SharePoint.
and then half
Yeah.
the people don't even read them anyway.
No, they don't read
It's
them at
like,
all.
what's the point?
So, to lead this in a slightly different direction, still talking about tablets, management. How many people are doing management of tablets, or do you just let people bring their own and, hey, they can access whatever they want?
We kind of do a little bit of both. We are BYOD if you want to use your personal device for business, but those who don't bring their own device, we provide them with an iPad if they want one.
Do you care about the corporate data?
I was just going to ask
Yes,
that.
we just transitioned our entire organization to Meraki devices, and Meraki comes with integrated MDM, and we use Meraki MDM to make sure that our intellectual property, and because we deal in fine art, so like a lot of it is just a picture of a work of art that's worth a lot of money, but just to be able to see that in some cases is a problem in itself. So we have that MDM installed so that should some devices go missing, be stolen, damaged, whatever, we can be sure that the data on it is removed. next time it's the
How about this?
Hopefully.
I work for your company. I can bring my own device. I show up. This is it. What do I get access to? What am I allowed to have access to?
And how do you get access?
How do I get access to?
We give you access to your corporate email, corporate contacts, and corporate calendars, as well as we use a product called Artbinder, which is specifically for the art world. You can curate a collection of works, and you can give people certain access.
Does that data live on the device, or
Yes, it lives on the device, but you can actually deauthorize individual devices from Artbinder itself. So the next time that application is launched, it's like, hey, I'm no longer valid. You have to sign in again. We actually had something happen where someone left the company suddenly, and we had to do that. So what we did is we went in, we disabled their device. We went in, we erased their device remotely using MDM. And we changed all their passwords, locked them out of everything. And then we were confident that he was no longer able to access his information within an hour. And when I say not access, I mean email, art, works of art.
Well, that's your right. That's your data. I guess that's where I was headed. Like, so now I have all this stuff on my device, and I go, I quit.
Yeah, what if it's a personal device? You're not going to wipe their device, right?
No, you know what? To be honest,
So they lock an art book.
I would.
For Artbinder.
So you got to be careful there, because people have been sued for, like, there was a woman
Right, you
had
have
a
to get people to
manuscript
sign things. Onboarding would mean people are signing things.
for agreeing to the
I will admit, I am not a proponent of bringing a device. If you're a company and you expect people to use these devices, you buy them for them and you hand them out. You say, these are our property, and we'll do whatever the hell.
most of them.
Manage them, and we will crush them, and you will not have them if you quit.
Most of
I'm
them-
sorry, like, it's...
Most of the MDMs, you can configure them to do an enterprise wipe, which means you're only sucking away the stuff that you've given them.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's
Right, but what
too,
happens
even
to
on
data, they
iOS
go home
devices.
and they plug it in, and iTunes backs everything up, and it goes
So
up
you
to
can, if you
iCloud,
wanted
and-
to, you can
You can
disable
restrict the
backup.
backup.
yes.
Right, but now...
But now you don't have a backup.
Right, now there's my personal device. What about my photos and all this stuff on my device that I have a right to back up? That's what BYOD is.
We don't take it that far to affect their personal information. Meraki MDM gives you the ability to selectively remove. It gives you certain levels. It's been a while since I set up my device, but it gives you certain levels that you can,
Wipe
tell.
certain
You can
things,
say
yes.
like only remove the things that have been installed by the MDM profile, or all the way up through nuke everything.
I think it'll
wipe the
get-
entire device.
I think it'll get more sophisticated in terms of at least alerting. So there are certain things that just the iOS devices won't let you do in terms of management. And the way that AirWatch and Meraki and whatnot get around those things is they find ways to alert the IT department or through the console of if someone is doing one of those things, because they can detect.
Configuration
So I could foresee something like someone sets their corporate stuff to back up to their iCloud. I could see something like that. Maybe they coming up with a way to detect things like that. So like for someone who is a current employee, if they IT would need to address that and be like, wait, why did you set it to back that up? Or some way of preventing stuff like that to address things like that. But I mean, I think a lot of the cases for BYOD are companies that okay, they're gonna leave with some data and it's not the end of the world. And it's weighing that. For
Again,
some
that's,
companies, it's
any
not the end of the
security
world.
is a bit of a balance.
Yeah.
Right? So,
And
so
so
actually,
it's stuff
Clay-
that is the end of the world.
Clay in the chat room brought up something kind of interesting. BYOD seems like it would be a disaster in any legal discovery case. So for litigation, your company comes into litigation for something and they say, hey, we need all
But you have to understand that
data
for legal
pertaining
discovery, what you want is to be able to tell the other guys, yeah, we lost that data.
Ideally, yes.
So it's great for legal discovery. We have no control over that asset. I don't know what he did with it. We can't find it. Sorry.
Yeah, but that's like people saying that my Wi-Fi network is totally open, so I have no responsibility for what happens on my network.
Except that this one is proven in the courts, and that one doesn't work in the courts.
There's that. But you can firewall off data with managed open-in. There's a bunch of times where every knife that you bring to Apple's gunfight, they've had the discussions, and they've let it be, they've made it so inflexible that people scream what they need, to the point where okay, we'll do you a solid and you'll clap at the next time we present this. It's going to be awesome. Don't worry. We'll have so many, crowd pleasers because we haven't implemented this yet. So like we only got managed open in recently. It was either I'm controlling it entirely because I've developed the app custom, and I will make sure that like they were on time with iCloud backup. They said, okay, if you don't want anything to go to iCloud backup, you can disable that from the management level with MDM from off the bat. But
Disable it entirely or disable certain apps?
disable entirely.
Entirely. Yeah.
So it was people were saying, please give me the granularity back. Like, you know, people were saying, please may I, is how you approach them. It's how they want it to actually be happening.
One interesting thing around BYOD is Symantec is coming out with their new kind of wrapping technology where you can wrap an app, send it to somebody that's not managed by the organization, but you can still manage that app. So that's like an alternative to giving somebody full access to your stuff,
By pushing it
but you're
through an
only
MDM.
managing that app without managing the device.
I think one of the things as an organization that we've managed to do is protect the 4 key things. Email, contacts, calendars, and Heartbinder. As long as we protected those 4 things on mobile devices, we really don't have.
And that's probably sitting on a server somewhere.
Correct. Our services are IMAP, CalDAV, CardDAV, and Artbinder is cloud-centric. So.
We can still take that contact, copy it from one account to the other.
I mean, definitely, there's still some limits to how effective that can be, but ultimately, as a company, you kind of have to trust your employees to a certain extent.
But as long as you could put it into an app that doesn't allow you to do that.
Correct. And I mean, if we were to come across something that worked better both on the management side and the user side,
Usability side, yeah.
we would definitely consider it at least. Like I said, the way I look at it is you have to trust your employees to an extent.
Yeah.
You can't hire somebody and give them a salary and then say, like, we don't trust you at all. You have to give them some slack to do their job however they need to do it.
So yeah, to that point, in the chat room, Adam Kodega says one of the solutions for that is to either do everything in the cloud or have a remote desktop.
Yeah.
And Clay also said if he worked for a company where everything was BYOD, he would probably just buy a separate device, buy a separate tablet. Now, not everyone's in the position to go dump another $400 on a tablet, but if you are, that would make a lot of sense. Just keep one sectioned off for work.
Most BYOD environments, there's some expectation that if the company's requiring you to buy it, they're going to reimburse you partially or something.
Yeah, I'm using this in lieu of a phone because I don't want to carry 2 phones anymore. And I don't worry about the fact that I can be contacted for work because I don't have a lot of coworkers that actually need to get in touch with me on a regular basis when I'm doing my particular job for this company. So I don't need to check mail here unless it's the IP that I get in SMS, and therefore I don't need to be MDM'd. So I can be off of the network's management and still perform my job function. This is going to be MDM'd, yes, and for now, right? But this is going to be MDM'd, and I don't mind because they're going to pay for the Verizon bill, and I'm going to have the unlimited
Right,
hotspot.
so there's some reimbursement in some manner, yes.
I get reimbursed for this as well. They might call me on it.
Right, well, again, and that was just brought up in the chat room, what if my boss asked for my cell number, but mobile devices are given out to us. So, yeah, hopefully in that case, you're being reimbursed. Maybe not for your entire bill, but if you're expected to use it as a company resource, the company should reimburse you for it.
I got a work phone. I can forward it to the...
Yes, that's another way of dealing with it. That they make some number available and it's forwarded. Okay, so I feel better. I feel like maybe I'm not
We
crazy.
still haven't convinced you.
No, it's not that you haven't convinced me. I think that that I'm not like missing something. Like, oh my God, everyone's got this figured out, and I have no idea. It's just, we're all pretty much in the same boat. There are some really great use cases for it.
I think if you can challenge yourself to stick to email, browsing, and Office apps,
and maybe
I actually think email is one of the things it's worst at. The tablet is in my opinion, email. I would do 200 other things on a tablet before email. Assuming I didn't need more than a 3-word
Right.
S
the
Jobs
reply
at
is like,
Apple kind of an
"I want
answer.
the real keyboard
Do
again
you
for-
split your
Right.
keyboard?
Sorry.
Do you split the iPad keyboard?
No.
You can split it.
I know, but I can type fairly well.
Yeah.
And actually,
I type faster with the
Display.
yeah with
Thumbs
that.
split.
You're
Yeah.
used to the
Yeah.
iPhone.
Right.
You're used to the iPhone.
I'm
I
not
think-
a thumb typer.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that may solve the issue that you were speaking about earlier with the insertion points and reaching up to select some text, to me it almost makes more sense to make an iPad case with a keyboard in it that folds open the other way,
Yeah.
so that it folds open like this.
Oh
Does anyone remember those?
The 3-piece keyboard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it was like a
It was like wallet.
Yeah,
pieces.
like-
wallet, and it
like-
unfolded into like 4 pieces
Yeah.
for this, for palm, and it had a little rest for your.
Yes. I had one and I used one in high school.
Actually, I saw a woman on the train just yesterday who had a Bluetooth keyboard and her iPhone. And she had an iPhone resting on her knee, and she's typing out some email or something.
It's just a little
It was an
iPad.
Apple aluminum
Yeah.
Bluetooth keyboard.
That's a great keyboard if
It is
you're
a great
used to
keyboard.
this exact chiclet
I don't know.
stuff.
Yes, I don't know if I would carry it around.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess the thing that I'm trying to figure out is like, are there any companies or something like where someone just shows up at work and they have their iPad, they plop that on their desk, like that's their whole desk, is like this nice, neat, clean desk, and they have their iPad and maybe a Bluetooth
If
keyboard.
you're
That's it.
if all you use is
Not so much.
Salesforce, maybe.
I
So I
have
don't-
friends that
but-
won't touch an iPad. Won't use one. Doesn't like it. My boss.
Oh.
My boss.
Again, I like them.
Doesn't like doing it. He doesn't feel like the experience on the iPad lends itself to the sales scenario in any way, and therefore does not use one.
Really? I guess it depends on depends what, if you're on the phone all day doing sales, maybe not. But if you're in the field,
Yeah,
it lends
it's like
itself.
To be able to
Verizon.
hand it to somebody.
Verizon is
You want-
using
you want
Android
in person.
tablets exclusively for the instead of the Panasonic Toughbooks that Time Warner has, right?
Yeah.
That's my organization. We replaced their Lenovo's, their big clunky Lenovo laptops with iPads, and they love it. They're all sales. They go out and they load up a keynote.
This company's Lenovo's. Let's see if they know.
Oh, they definitely noticed because those things were huge. You know, we had
Yeah.
slices and everything. Oh, they were
Well, I said this the other day. I saw someone in the Starbucks, like sitting there with their, it was an HP or a Dell, and like this thing was like the bottom of it alone
Yeah.
was like an inch and a half thick.
About
They lug this thing around.
And then what they do to it, I mean, what they do
But
to
yeah, I
it
would
with
much
Windows
rather
XP
carry.
is like it's crazy. You get a
Right.
bag of, I don't know what's going on. And
I would much
swipe it.
rather carry
Swipe
around.
it.
For people who travel, yes.
Yeah,
it's
so
superior.
it's changed their lives. They present from the iPad. They can present to a TV, which is kind of an iffy thing.
using Keynote.
Do they have DVI? Do they have VGA? We'll give you both these adapters. We'll give you, that's another topic.
They use
altogether.
Keynote?
They use Keynote, and they did that on their own. They were using PowerPoint. It wasn't available on the iPad, so they said, okay, let's try Keynote. Let's give it a shot.
So you mean they were on their
Yeah.
Windows machine? They were using PowerPoint.
Oh, they're on Macs at the office. So
Oh.
they were using PowerPoint. They were accustomed to it. We one user got Keynote, and then we gave them the iPads. And then I remember I was walking by one of their offices, and I saw him creating a presentation completely on the iPad, and I was blown away. I was like, wow, this could really replace everything for us. So in our case, for our salespeople, they could totally work off solely an iPad. The only difficult thing is typing out long emails, as you guys already discussed.
Right.
But presenting, I mean, it looks great. You come in with a new iPad, you're like, wow, this guy's very fancy. He's got the that hair. Oh, he's got some
I guess
buttons to show.
so.
It's been very useful
it's
for us.
probably great for presenting in a room just like this,
Yep.
where you have a projector or a TV, and you're probably sitting in front of it. As speaking as someone who like gives talks at conferences and things, I'm walking around the stage way too much, or I'm kind of pacing around. I don't want to be locked behind a.
Yeah.
And an iPad is like too big to carry around, and like
Yeah.
change your slides. And so to
You
me,
use
it's
an
just
iPhone, it's
kind
the
of cool.
clicker.
Even with the
Yeah.
iPhone, it's too. You know what? It's too easy, I think, to accidentally go to your next
Yeah.
slide. For me, I like the presentation remote.
There's
It's
no
tactile.
tactile
You can
feedback. Yeah,
very-
you have to look down to see.
No, in your
buttons.
hand. You can keep it in your hand, but it's
Okay.
very clear when you're gonna press this button forward.
Right.
and back.
You can use the volume keys on the phone.
Can you? I didn't
I think
know
so.
that.
I
If
didn't
you
know that.
can, that would be a
Tactile.
big difference. That-
On the iPhone, Apple
Yeah,
lets you do that.
I think so.
I was
Change
surprised.
the-
If I could
Yeah.
turn off the display and not have the display take any input and just use that, I would consider it.
I don't.
You don't know?
Basic.
You sucker. All right. And did anyone have something like I'm completely missing that just you feel like saying about tablets or?
Well, I think we've had a. I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but I think we have a. We've had some experience where we do a fair amount of presenting. Our company partners, we have people come and present to us, and for the most part, they're still traveling with MacBook Airs or Retina MacBook Pros. They're plugging in a Thunderbolt or whatever adapter to HDMI or to VGA mostly still. But in our own office, I set up Apple TVs with AirPlay.
Yeah.
Hooked up to some nice big 90-inch LED LCD displays that we replaced our projectors with. And they've been great. I mean, for the most part, people use AirPlay from their laptops, but on occasion, I've seen people and have helped people do it from their iPads. And that is actually not a bad way to go about a presentation. When you can mirror the screen up there, be looking at it, be kind of walking around with it a little bit and sliding around.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it seems to be kind of a nice way. I think that more than anything is facilitated by a proprietary technology like AirPlay, though, until that becomes ubiquitous.
Yeah, one thing that for iPads might be working on other iOS devices. Like, we set up devices and we need the Wi-Fi, and guess what? They don't put on the gosh darn outside of the box.
Oh,
the MAC address.
MAC address, yeah.
So
But that's just because we
just
built
figured
it on
out,
MAC addresses.
and by we I mean me, create a note, copy and paste, and then airdrop it to another iOS device that's on network, and then we can put it in the inventory system.
Interesting.
Working on other iOS devices. There we go. Being a mechanic for Apple devices.
I had a question about. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Mason? Mark. I had a question about something that you brought up earlier. We're also using Meraki for our MDM. What do you do about device backups? I didn't even think about that.
Generally speaking, the device, all the information that's on the device is based in a server. So our mail is IMAP, contacts are CarDAV, calendars are CalDAV, and the ArtBinder software itself.
So it doesn't care about his corporate
so
data.
in that case, you don't care. In my case, if someone emailed a document to somebody and they saved it locally to their device or into another application.
Or a photograph.
That's what you're saying. We have left their ability to back up to iCloud on their devices for their personal information. So their personal information is still safe. With those management profiles, and also we can just change their mail password and stuff like that. We can easily lock them out of the system. And the same thing with deauthorizing their device through ArtBinder, as far as mobile is concerned. With their computers, we don't do BYOD with computers, only for phones and tablets. Computers are centrally managed. We use Absolute Manage to deploy our software packages. And as far as backup goes, we run Crash Plan Pro E. And we back up their devices to a local server. The local server backs up to another server. In this case, in Zurich, they're backed up from New York to Zurich overnight. And in Zurich, they do local backups and they rotate out physical media. So that's how we back up our computers. Their mobile devices, we're not concerned with the information that's on.
So what if somebody were to leave the company but had a backup on their laptop?
Of their personal device?
Yes, of their company issued iOS device on their personal device. And you were to issue a wipe command, let's say the person left, whatever. Could they restore that backup to another device?
Yes, but the ArtBinder application would recognize that as a new device, and we would remove them from the system so they wouldn't be able to sign back in and gain that proprietary information. And we would also change their mail password and lock them out of mail contacts account.
I'm just curious.
But there could be a cache.
Do profiles carry over when you do a restore?
I believe they do, yes.
Wow, so
I haven't done
roll a new device.
Correct, you can. There are a lot of options on it. There are a lot of profile-related options that we don't necessarily use.
Yeah, I'm only using it to push out mail settings. That's it.
The profiles may carry over, but then the device is not enrolled in the MDM until you
it
roll
has no entry.
Correct.
So some of the profiles may not function. even though they might be there.
Okay. Interesting. I didn't even think about that. Wow.
They could also restore to the same device. It's
Yes, they
their
could.
device.
Yeah.
Yes, but in
And
our case,
even if they don't
also
restore it, though, the backup is a record of all this, and you can go through the backup on disk.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I don't think that any of my users are savvy enough to know
Right.
that
They have
that's
to be
even
very
an option.
determined.
well,
Yeah.
sure, but
Yeah.
hopefully, Artbinder is encrypting their data on disk, and things like that. So
These are questions I do not have the answer to. I don't know offhand.
Just
I just know that for our intents and purposes,
Uh-huh.
security that we have is just enough to protect our information without overstepping the boundaries into privacy.
It's kind of what we're into.
Yeah.
So do you allow for backups?
Backups,
You
yeah,
don't
we turn them
fly.
on. We use them ourselves because these people go out and they get drunk and they drop their iPad, they leave it in a taxi. They're salespeople. They're going out and entertaining clients a lot, so they lose devices. They
So
break
you're
devices constantly.
backing it up for them?
So we enable iCloud backup. We encourage them to back up their devices because they lose them so often, and when they get them back, it's easy for us to just to restore it.
And iCloud doesn't back up everything. It
No,
doesn't, there's
I
a
don't
lot of
know.
stuff that it doesn't back up.
that wasn't a
doesn't
question.
back
That was a
up.
statement.
Yeah.
iCloud does not back
yeah,
up everything.
it's getting better though.
It doesn't back up photos.
Except the last
No.
30 days worth of
That's-
net
but that's-
photos.
that's not the backup.
That's photo
That's-
stream.
That's
That's
photo
photo
stream.
stream.
So you have to have photo stream
It's
on.
not part of the backup.
I thought iCloud does do pictures because when it restores, it says downloading photo in the Photos app.
Only your
But
photo
it's
stream.
the photo
Photo
stream
stream.
that's downloaded. So if you shut
Last
off
30 days
you sh-
or 1,000
Yeah.
pictures.
So if you shut
No,
off
there's no more cap.
Oh, there's no more cap?
They removed the cap last year.
if
But
you
still 30
shut
days,
off
right?
photo
Correct, yeah.
stream but do a backup, you have no picture.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So just to
Okay, I
confirm,
get it today.
if you
And so also data within an app
Yeah,
doesn't get backed up.
Depends on the app.
Depends on the app.
yeah. 'Cause I've had mixed results.
So
with
what
that.
happens? An app has to opt in to say, "Hey, I want this backed up."
iCloud
I think
backup.
if you look if you go to settings, then
Storage.
iCloud, and then you look at the storage and backup, you can turn on and off the applications that back up.
Right.
Right.
So some
Some
apps provide you an option, turn me on, turn me off. Other apps are not there at all.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah, they have to.
what do they
time
call it?
that.
Privilege. It's a
Yes, right.
You have to build it into the app.
It's an entitlement.
Entitlement.
Yeah. We track that.
But also like settings. Like some settings don't get backed up.
Yeah.
On some apps.
Yeah, it's kind of a mess.
There
It's just-
is no
you
hard
just-
and fast
there-
rule, I don't think.
There is no full cloning of an iOS device.
It seems like Apple would have long since eliminated any kind of. I mean, this is really in terms of their own limitations for backups. It seems like the limitation is just server storage space somewhere. With those server farms, I don't really understand why it is that they're limiting you to 5 gigabytes by default.
Every gigabyte is a dollar sign on
Yeah,
it.
somewhere.
On somebody's bottom line.
And why they're limiting you to 5 gigs is because they want you to pay for the rest.
Yeah.
They don't want
Yeah,
they,
but most-
they want to give you a taste for free, but then they want you to pay for what you really want. And
They
need to
don't.
use
They don't get
for
it for free. They don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Considering they're giving that money to Amazon and Microsoft.
Right. That's true too.
iCloud is Amazon and Microsoft. Mostly
Interesting.
AWS.
I
That's
don't
the back
know.
end of
Yeah.
iCloud.
So what are those huge data centers for? Is that just like for Apple trailers for movies? Or
Maybe.
iTunes.
iTunes Music.
Yeah,
Please
iTunes,
optimize
iTunes probably. They probably control that very closely.
Yeah.
iCloud, if you ever look at traffic where it's going out to, it's mostly going
it's AWS or
Yeah, AWS.
Yeah.
wow.
Mostly. I've seen some Microsoft Azure as well, but it seems like 90% of the requests go to Amazon.
AWS. Wow. That's surprising. So I guess that makes more sense that they're paying for it on the back end.
It's also just bandwidth.
So,
Like,
all right, just
clogged
before
already
we
bandwidth.
wrap up, anyone have any questions, stuff they're struggling with? Mac, tablet, whatever? Want to bring up any?
Who's going to WWDC?
Yeah, that's a good question. Anyone?
How much value is there in WWDC for somebody more on like the ops side of things?
Less and less, I suppose, but I don't know.
He used to be very good.
I need to know how to learn how to manage Helvetica in the next release. I mean, it's Christmas, it's going to be a huge change. Like, it's in the cards that there's going to be a huge change.
To Helvetica?
To the Mac
No,
OS.
to the Mac OS. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
They're going to break a whole bunch of stuff, I'm sure. They're going to be like, yeah, this is...
Seems like whatever's coming in 1010.
So I wish that I could have had the forethought to go, But instead, I'm just gonna have Greg yell at me like he always yells at me
No,
a month or two anyway.
I think we should all be members of the developer program.
I'll watch the
We should be
videos.
getting seeds and data access early, and have access to the developer forums and all those things. So there's value in that, and going out and seeing what
comes out of it.
as a gathering, WDC has something unique, and that's Apple engineers. And Apple, whether it's spin or not, it has. Here we go.
I gotta go.
Okay. See you tomorrow. Whether it's spin or not, it's Apple trying to give you their best description of where they say things are going. So it's definitely worthwhile from that perspective. Now, this is the first year I'm not going since 2003 or so, and I kind of made the decision last year. Last year I went without a ticket to WDC because this whole ecosystem has sort of grown up around people who haven't been getting tickets. So there are all these events, and there's a critical mass of people there that week that people you want to go see and things like that. But last year, with Apple releasing the videos the same day as the sessions, I don't know, I kind of sat in my hotel in the evening and just picked out the 2 most important videos I wanted to watch and watched them, and then caught up with everyone else later at night. So this year I'm thinking, I'm just going to stay here and watch the videos, maybe have some viewing parties here, get local people who aren't going, and just vote on which video we're going to watch and
show up
and discuss, right? So I think that's, I did a little bit more travel early this year also, which is like, I don't want to go away again. That's part of me not going. But it's worthwhile is my answer, I think. If you don't have a ticket, the ticket alone, if you get the ticket, it's $1,600, so it's not an inexpensive thing necessarily.
Right. Yeah, I think that's, I don't know, I haven't looked at, besides a few old videos from years ago, I haven't seen many of the inside videos. I mean, I always watch the keynote live if I can or whatever, but I haven't seen many of the inside sessions. A lot of them seem to be more on the development side of things in many respects.
Developer.
Which is why I asked the ops question. But.
Right, but it's still part of your job to understand the technical details of the OS that you support.
Of course, yeah.
But if you choose the keynote and then want to watch some other video, watch the state of the OS. It's the first session they do. I'm assuming they still.
In the afternoon,
yeah. No, but I'm assuming they also make that available now.
Yeah.
Right. State of the OS, absolutely. If you watch no other video, even more important than the keynote, watch State of the OS. That's where they kind of lay it all out. What they say is coming, it's not. Other conferences, Penn State is coming up.
Yep.
This is also the first year, a few years that I'm going to miss it. Traveling, family vacation.
What conference is that?
Oh, well, Penn State.
Penn State.
This is the first conference I've signed up for, so.
You're going to Penn State?
I am.
Good. It's a good conference.
Yeah, it seems like a great group. I've seen a few of your YouTube videos from
Okay.
previous ones.
Yeah, I'm disappointed that not only am I not speaking, but I'm not going at all, but whatever. They normally have had it by now. I forget when they...
There's been,
Last year.
Last year
March,
it was
April.
LAPSO was in the same month.
Yeah, so this is the first year they moved it to the summer.
Is that the big one? I mean, other than WWDC, what are the big Mac?
So I run Mac Tech Conference. It's an annual event.
That's the LA.
LA.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a good one. You should go to that one.
I'd
That's
like
the
to.
one.
I may actually.
No, it is. That's a good one.
There's Mac IT, which was
January, February.
March, maybe.
formerly Macworld.
Formerly Macworld.
Yeah, still founded Macworld.
Hmm.
And Maxism in Sweden. There's another one
I don't think I'm
in
going to
Europe.
convince them to send me to Sweden. I'll try.
I'm gonna give it a shot, Michael.
The question that I had is nobody's learned how to create a profile that came out of Profile Manager unsigned, right?
Nope.
So
When were those
you
dropped?
can't modify a profile that you get out of Profile Manager without it not being signed. I don't think there's a way to strip signing after the fact. So if I want to customize a profile without pushing it through an MDM and having the user interact with that, I need to get it out unsigned. I have signing tools for packages.
Yep.
I have signing tools for software. Don't think I have signing tools for profiles.
No, but I haven't looked at it enough. There's got to be just, I don't know, just someplace that they're dumping that in the XML blob, right?
Yeah.
So
Just throwing it
assuming you
in
can
there.
stuff it in there somewhere. But I haven't tried.
That was the one thing that I was trying to figure out if it was doable. I mean, in theory, of course, it's kind of doable.
So what is the MDM of choice for desktops? Right now we're using Casper Suite. That's it?
So I don't consider Casper a MDM for Macs,
For Macs, right?
because they've had their client for so long running as an agent. But again, I shouldn't be talking about Casper. We're about to implement it.
I love it. Are you guys not so happy about it?
Well, you know, it's like
Casper's it's quite expensive for Windows.
Yeah.
you give them crap because you love them, maybe, right?
Yeah.
You know, so the way that they implement, I don't like Puppet the way they implement local MCX. They do it on the local host computer record just like Casper does. Doesn't mean that it doesn't get the job done for them, and they don't find it a supportable method of doing that. I mean, Puppet doesn't support Macs, but
Puppet works. Puppet Labs doesn't necessarily support
right.
Mac.
They'll charge you for licenses, but that's what they told me. But it's just, you know, I give them grief because I want their product to be better.
Yes, could be. Definitely could be. But I come from using Profile Manager, so this is humongous step. This is great, and I'm thrilled.
You get what you pay for versus a $30 application that you download from the Mac App Store.
There you go.
Yeah.
It seems like I've just gone through this whole Casper versus whatever else debate, and I haven't gotten to the end of it yet. We haven't had anything like that in terms of management of our fleet of computers yet, but it's clear that it's time to do that. And it was probably time to do that 2 years before I took this job on, or 4 years before I took this job on, but it's one of the things we're coming back around to. And I sat down with Jam for their whole presentation at Apple, and I don't know. They do like presenting, although I was less blown away than I hoped to be.
Is the stream still going?
What?
Is the stream still going?
Yes, it is.
Damn.
But it seems like the big competitor is like a suite of open source tools, other than Absolute Manage, which there are some big proponents of. But this whole like Monkey and Deploy Studio and Repsato, and you can kind of cobble together your own Casper suite via open source tools if you don't have the budget or the tolerance for the Casper system.
I wouldn't use cobble together.
Well, I mean, in the early days of OS X Server, they actually were people saying, this is like donation, this is shovelware of how they assembled the tool set that they put into Mac OS X Server. People felt it was a hobbyware because they were sourcing, because also you were dealing with the command line versus the old school Mac heads as well at that same point, at that same juncture. But like, there's Monkey that gets people 80% of the way there when it comes to what they want to do. So a lot of things like, if you don't like the way Absolute Manage, which is another great solution for specifically, I need to push packages, I need to patch my fleet. People think that's what their job is like sometimes it's just like staring at a progress bar. So when you get that problem solved, that can be a large part of the solution. And then after that, you maybe want configuration management. After that, maybe you want orchestration. But like, yeah, it can be that what you interact with most often doesn't feel cobbled together because there's so many projects around that central core tool that does it so well. I mean, it's thousands of lines of Python that do all of the heavy lifting for this purpose-built function. Monkey gets you all the way there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say the same.
I wasn't using cobbled as a derogatory term.
If you look at Casper, it's a GUI around a bunch of shell scripts.
Right.
I mean, it's a good tool. I think the winning point for Casper is it lets someone set it up, and and then they can hand it to very junior admins. Say, hey, I'm not going to be here. I'm going on vacation. I'm setting this up for you,
Season
handing it
to
to
manage.
you, whatever, and they can kind of keep it going from there. That's the biggest point of Casper, whereas Monkey or these other tools.
The fact that I'm being told in Casper Imaging, you need to actually click install on things to image computers is making smoke come out of my ears, because I cannot believe that you would deploy something in a non-automated fashion. Period.
Yeah, no, I
I
don't use it, so I don't
deploying in Casper, like if you can't just say like deploy to this computer.
I'll learn very soon. I'll enjoy it so much to know for myself exactly what the contour of that workflow is. But I just.
Are you talking about the self-serve portal?
No, I mean Casper Imaging.
Okay.
You have to net boot to the environment that they want you to prepare for
yes.
their tool, and if it needs to perform installations along the way, because you're going to do things in a modular, this brand new modular imaging thing, you need to say, yes, I'd like to install that because I'm not root, and it can't accept sudo.
You're talking on the
like
net.
how you're like twitching.
Yes. It just, I don't know why. Anyway.
So that's like 10 clicks if you have 10 installs.
Not first-hand knowledge. So
that hasn't been the case on my end, because we have a configuration that we push out that has a bunch of packaged installs, packages that we've packaged, and it just goes. I mean, I have to enter the password for the netboot machine. I have to authenticate the app, and then choose my configuration, and it goes. Look.
You guys should talk.
All right. On that note,
I enjoy it.
hang out. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Until next month.
you may be interested in the Casper meetup that I'm being invited